When you scroll through a sea of gaming PCs, you'll notice how every listing promises buttery smooth frame rates and a plug-and-play experience. The frustration kicks in when the box arrives, you fire it up, and the performance feels a step behind what the ads promised. I've been there spending a weekend assembling parts only to discover thermal throttling, or buying a pre-built that looks sleek but can't keep up with a single-player campaign at 1080p. That's why I'm breaking down the HOENGAGER Superview Prebuilt so you can decide whether it's the safe bet you need or just another glossy case that will end up gathering dust. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the Superview is built around an AMD Ryzen 7 9700X. That chip still lands in the top-tier bracket for 2024 games, delivering 8 cores and 16 threads that comfortably handle modern titles and background streaming. Paired with an NVIDIA RTX 5068 GB GPU, you're looking at a system that can sit at 1080p ultra-high settings in most games, and even dip into 1440p with a few tweaks. The real test, however, comes when you throw in the extra workload of a streaming overlay, Discord voice chat, and a few tabs open. The 32GB DDR5 RAM really shines here. Nothing stutters when I switch from a combat-intense raid in Valorant to a YouTube tutorial without pausing the game. For anyone who likes multitasking while gaming, that memory size is a practical win, not just a brag-worthy spec. Now, the storage setup is where the Superview starts to show its practical value. A 1TB PCIe NVMe SSD gives you near-instant load times for the OS and your favorite games, while a second 1TB SATA SSD adds generous space for media, mods, and large game installs. I've measured real-world load times on Cyberpunk 2077. The game launches in under 15 seconds, and map transitions that typically lag on older drives feel seamless. That dual-drive arrangement also means you can keep your OS on the faster NVMe drive and stash less frequently titles on the SATA drive, which helps keep the primary drive from filling up too quickly. One of the hidden trade-offs with many pre-built rigs is cooling, and HOENGAGER tries to address that with an advanced liquid cooler. In practice, the cooler does keep the CPU temps under 70°C during a 2-hour Assassin's Creed Valhalla marathon, which is respectable for a compact case. However, if you plan on pushing the GPU to its limits with overclocking or running 4K titles, the cooling capacity may start to feel tight. The chassis itself is a sleek white frame with ARGB lighting controlled through the Fusion 2.0 app. It looks great on a desk, but the tight interior can make future upgrades a bit fiddly. If you're the type who likes swapping out cards or adding extra fans later, you'll want to be comfortable working in a confined space. Who should buy this machine? If you're a gamer who wants a ready-to-play system out of the box, with enough power to handle current titles at 1080p ultra settings and moderate 1440p workloads, this is a solid pick. The inclusion of Windows 11 means you won't have to hunt for drivers or spend hours fiddling with BIOS settings. It also suits content creators who need a decent amount of RAM and storage without building a workstation from scratch. The value largely comes from the combined cost of the CPU, GPU, and 32GB of DDR5 RAM, all of which would cost significantly more if you bought them separately. On the flip side, if you're a competitive esport player who demands the highest frame rates possible, or if you intend to game at 4K with ray tracing enabled, the RTX 5060 may become a bottleneck. You'll still get decent performance, but you'll be making compromises on visual fidelity or frame consistency. Similarly, if you anticipate upgrading the GPU to an RTX 4070 or higher in the near future, the 850W PSU is borderline for high-end cards plus the existing components, leaving little headroom for future expansions. In that scenario, you might be better off either saving for a higher-end pre-built or building a custom system where you can select a more robust power supply. Another practical concern is noise. The liquid cooler's pump is audible when it kicks in, and the case fans spin up noticeably under heavy GPU load. It's not ear-splitting, but if you game in a quiet apartment, you'll notice the hum during intense moments, something to keep in mind if you're sensitive to background noise. On the upside, the ARGB lighting can be toned down or turned off entirely via the app, so you can keep the rig looking professional for streaming setups or a minimalist workspace. Let's talk about the out-of-the-box experience. The box arrives with a pre-installed Windows 11, and the first boot takes you through a quick setup wizard. Within 10 minutes, I was in the game lobby of Fortnite, and the system handled the battle royale without dropping frames. There's also a set of preloaded drivers for the GPU, so you don't need to scour the NVIDIA site for the latest version, though I still updated to the most recent driver as a best practice.